This is a continuation of this Jeep Cherokee that we picked up for free. Haven't messed with it, haven't seen that kid. I hit him up, I asked the kid, I was like, can I come up and try to get this thing running? He said, yeah. So I went up there, and right off the bat, this thing definitely needs a battery. I don't have a battery jumper, nor can I get battery cables on it to jump start it, just for the way it's parked. So we just ran out and we got a battery. Aside from the battery being the only issue, I guess somebody lost the key somewhere along the line, and I guess they took a screwdriver to it, destroyed the whole ignition. So I started to destroy it even more. So I'm gonna see if I can't get this thing to turn over with like a screwdriver, or end up hot wiring it. I mean, if I could use the screwdriver, I would prefer that. So we just pulled up. I'm gonna go stick this battery in it and see if this thing will power on. So threw the battery in, and as soon as I touched that negative post, this thing started screaming at me. And I am definitely not a big fan of these aftermarket alarm systems, just for all the funky stuff they do. I see a lot of cars come in with these aftermarket alarm systems and no crank, no start. They cause a lot of issues. So I'm gonna rip these wires out real quick, just so this horn's not blaring at me. So just like that, that's how you disconnect aftermarket horn. Tie these wires out of the way so they don't touch. Done. And some of this, just put that back. So let's see now if this thing will yell at me. Hopefully the normal horns aren't hooked up too. All right, now, so we're good. Whatever this thing is lighting up. And we got this thing down here. It actually is still ticking before the 4-ways were on. I'm gonna take our key. So power's up. I don't know if this alarm system just finally disabled, but we got, you know, interior lights, the gauges, the temp gauge is pinned out. Let's see if she'll crank over. No, it's got to do with this alarm thing, because these things are blinking again. So I don't know, I gotta see where this thing goes and how to just cut this thing out. We still got this alarm thing barking at us. I don't know if you guys can see up in here, but this is all this aftermarket junk for this aftermarket alarm system, and I'm pretty confident that I can get this thing to run if I rip all this stuff out, because this is probably just killing the ignition right now. So I'm gonna rip all this shit out. So real quick, this is all this junk, aftermarket remote start, air pressure shock sensor, all this crap for an aftermarket alarm. And the reason there's so many wires is because it goes to your door locks, ignition, blinkers, all that stuff. It's kind of easy to tell what was factory and what's not. So up here, this is like the main harness right here. So you see they pretty much just cut the red, and then they'll run wires into the module and then out of the module. We want to cut out all of these aftermarket wires and just put all these factory wires back to how they were. And this thing should crank over. So. All right guys, so we got this whole mess out. Pretty much just ripped it out. If you guys look, they did tap into like a couple other wires up here, but they're still like connected. This yellow wire was the only wire that was like actually interrupted. So this is probably like the main ignition feed. And the module is what kills that. All the other wires are just whatever other wires. So I'm gonna go hook this battery up, but at least we can probably get this thing to crank. Battery is hooked up. I got a little scared because I saw this blinking, but that was just because the hazard switch was on. So let's see, right now we're ignition off, steering wheel locked, ignition. It ain't cranking for me. All right guys, take 2. So it is trying to start. There's something wrong with the shifter because it's not seeing that it's in park. If I put it into neutral, I can get this thing to crank. So we got rid of that stupid wood grain shifter. But now if you guys look, let me put key on, neutral. All right, so I don't want to kill this battery. I'm probably going to run home and get some starting fluid and see if this thing will fire on starting fluid. I don't know. This thing's been sitting for quite some time, so it might just need a little bit of help, and it also might need some gas. So I'm going to run home real quick and get some starting fluid. And if this thing starts on starting fluid, go get some gas and pour it in there. I hear the fuel pump turning on, so I just think maybe it's out of gas. This is one that has one of those metal gas tanks, so those things are like prone to rotting. So this is going to be attempt number 3. I just sprayed some starting fluid in there, and let's see what we got. Hopefully we don't have a crazy backfire or something. Almost. I think she needs some more juice. Put this on just so we don't shoot a flame up. Come on, baby. Attempt number 25. She's just not happy. I guess I'm gonna go get a couple gallons of gas, put that in there. Maybe it's the old gas that's not helping. Maybe it's the no gas that's not helping. I would like to see this thing run. It smells like that old fuel. All right, guys, so we put some gas in there, and the battery was already going dead. So I got this thing charging up. I'm gonna leave this here for a few minutes. Hopefully this thing gets enough charge. I'm gonna go see if this battery took a little bit of a charge, throw this thing in and see what we got. All right, so I put in a crap ton of starting fluid. Maybe if we prime this thing a couple times, I don't know. I just want to see this thing go, man. I hear the pump kicking, but like I said, who knows what it looks like in there. Ah, it's so annoying. Pretty much got this thing to fire up on ether, but we checked for fuel pressure at the rail on the Schrader valve, whatever you want to call it. There's no fuel pressure up there, so we went underneath. I know I hear the pump running. Maybe the thing is clogged up, I don't know. So we took the line off at the filter and we checked it, and we're not getting any fuel coming out. So this thing definitely needs a fuel pump. We knew we weren't getting fuel, so we ripped the fuel pump out, and obviously this was the issue. Called all the parts stores, nobody has them. Luckily, one of my friends just did a fuel tank and pump in his old Cherokee, so we took his fuel pump. The only thing that's different is this was a returnless style. So, I mean, we pretty much cut the top off, the one that was in there, that is a return style system, and swapped that over to the pump that works. And we ghetto rigged it, and we sat there, tried to prime it. Still wasn't getting any fuel pressure. We hear the fuel pump running, not getting any pressure. I'm like, what the heck? I put 2.5 gallons in here yesterday. Just didn't make any sense. So I ran out, got some more gas, threw her in there, and this is, you know, all that wet right there. The fuel line's off before the fuel filter. So sat there, primed it, and sure enough, this thing just primes right up. So I'm about to hook up the rest of these fuel lines and cross my fingers that we get fuel pressure up at this rail, and this thing should be finally started. All right, so we just primed this thing a couple times, and you see I already did it. Good fuel pressure. The only thing is this fuel is like dirty, old, and probably not that good. It is mixed with like 5 gallons of good brand new gas. So sit here and crank this thing and hopefully get this thing fired up for the first time. Yeah, buddy, she fucking is a runner. A little bit of love. All right, so I'm just trying to hold this thing steady, you know, just get this thing going. If you guys look, alternator's charging, good oil pressure. Obviously, we took the fuel levels gauge thing, all that off because that didn't swap over. But this thing's a runner. It's a runner. Let's see if I take my foot off if she'll idle or not. I don't think she's quite there yet. So we got her idling on her own. Does have a check engine light. I mean, this thing's running shaky. You know, one, it hasn't ran, and I can't tell you how long, and two, it's still got really bad old gas in there. But it is trying to idle on itself. I feel like maybe the more it runs and the more gas that this thing gets through it, the better it'll be, but nonetheless, we got our free Jeep running. The only way to see if this thing will actually do anything is to do a nice big burnout. So let's give it a shot. Gave her the beans. Start her up, Nick.